Do you want to get about one more minute? Let some more folks come in.
Sure.
All right, ready to go?
Let's roll. Yep.
Let's roll. All righty. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our second conversation in transportation for 2024. It's our 20th overall that we've done in the series, so really happy to hit that little bit of a milestone. Again, if you haven't been here before, my name is Andy Wagner. I kind of run these with Dr. Joe Hummer. We're pleased to have, again, our second for the year. We do these every other month. Those of you who are on here probably have been to several of these. I hope have been to several of these. Uh, in that case, it's the same announcements as always. You'll get your PDH information, valuation form information sent to you via email either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. And if you have a question as we go along with the conversation, please use the Q&A function that's here in Zoom at the bottom. Please don't put your questions in the chat. Use the Q&A function. And then Dr. Hummer will get to those questions with about 15 minutes left in the hour. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Hummer.
Great. Thanks, Andy, and welcome everybody. So glad to be with you today for another conversation. This should be a terrific one. We're talking Greensboro today, and there's so much going on there. So thanks to Andy, thanks to the Strategic Initiative Council and the Young Members Council for sponsoring us. The purpose of our series is to educate our transportation professionals through a series of conversations with interesting people on interesting topics, and I think we got one today lined up for you. And also thank you to the sponsoring companies, the Diamond and Gold sponsor companies who really make this series possible and make Nixite run as it does. So thank you to the companies for your sponsorship. Our guest today is Hanna Cockburn, the Greensboro DOT Director of Transportation. She has practiced public sector planning in North Carolina for more than 2 decades, serving in roles at the state, regional, county, and municipal level. I should have silenced my phone before starting here. There we go. Hanna joined City of Greensboro as a director in 2020. That must have been interesting. In the middle of COVID, where she oversees transportation planning, design, traffic safety, operations, maintenance, and parking. And she and her team work to make Greensboro a great place to get around. She holds a BA from Cornell and an MA in Urban and Regional Planning from Minnesota State. She's a member of the American Planning Association, American Institute of Certified Planners, ITE, and a LGFCU 2019 fellow, 2015 local government fellow. She currently serves as president of the North Carolina chapter of the American Planning Association. Hanna, thanks so much for joining us.
Joe, thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be with you today.
Great, great. So how are things going in Greensboro? Nothing much going on, right?
Yeah, not much. We're so busy. You know, this is always a really busy time of year. We've right out of the gate gotten started with our resurfacing program for the year. We are just wrapping up bridge inspections. We've got a bunch of big projects going on. So yeah, there's no shortage of things for us to talk about today.
I bet. We'll get to a few here. How many people work at the Greensboro DOT?
So that number has just recently increased. In January, we brought over the roadway and asphalt and sidewalk maintenance group. So now we're at 165 folks spread over 4 divisions.
Right. Right. And what are your big initiatives? You've been 4 years, so probably still pushing the ones you came in with, or what?
Yeah, you know, one of the things that we've really been focusing on is making sure that our transportation systems all work well together. So we've really worked hard on integration. So you know, now that GTA has become its own department, that happened last year, we've been working really hard on a new transit mobility plan that really integrates walking and biking with transit access. So we've got a draft of that network coming out later this week. So we've been working really hard on some big kind of move the needle kinds of plans.
Yeah, good, good. Let me back to here. Sorry about that. Let me start with the big one to me, probably to you too, which is safety. The crash and fatality numbers have been awful across the U.S. and North Carolina in recent years. I saw data showing Greensboro running about 40 fatalities per year, about 10,000 reported crashes per year. Those about the right numbers that you're seeing too?
Yep. Yep,
Okay.
those are unfortunately the numbers here. You know, we had a big spike like everyone else did during and following kind of the lockdown from COVID. And we're working really hard with our police department and with other interested parties, our Safe Cities group, to really begin to narrow in on the causation of these. We've had we're continuing to do work on our on identifying and kind of solidifying what our high injury network looks like, so we know where we can focus. And we're working with our police department and our fire department and transit too to do some new things with signalization and signal prioritization that will hopefully allow us to not only address some of these crashes, but help reduce some of them.
Any patterns standing out to you sort of early in that process yet? Anything you could share?
Yeah, we've been working really hard on some of those high impact crashes, like angle crashes, for example, where, you know, the likelihood of that becoming a serious crash or a fatal crash is really much, much higher. So we've been working to identify those top intersections. And in conjunction with the high injury network, one of the kind of more novel things that we've done, we've purchased some smaller frame variable message boards that we are going to be identifying those intersections and then deploying them in all the legs of the intersection to not only detect speed when it's above the posted speed and provide that feedback, but also provide safety messaging throughout the community in those locations so that we can start to remind people that driving the speed limit, not running red lights, not getting behind the wheel when you're intoxicated, not driving distracted are all really important things to keeping everybody safe.
Now, probably those numbers maybe look a little higher per capita because Greensboro has so many freeways. I mean,
Right.
big roads meeting within the city limits. So,
Right.
do
Yeah.
you guys have a chance to maybe make a dent at all in what's happening on the freeways too?
Yeah, I think so. Part of that is really being creative and working with our law enforcement contacts, not only in Greensboro, but with the state patrol as well, so that we're doing really targeted efforts. Part of our role in participating in the state highway safety plan is to make sure that we have those points of contact and that we can work together to address some of these really serious problems because they're not going to get better by doing nothing.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yep. Yeah, a little bit of a drift here or there, but if we want to make a serious dent, yeah. Greensboro has adopted a Vision Zero policy, right?
Yes, yep. We were one of the early adopters. We have a Vision Zero action plan, and that gives us a foundation to really work with all of the interested parties, our Safe Kids Network, our Safe Routes to School group, our police department, all of those things, our hospital system as well. It gives us a way to have those conversations and really begin to focus together on joint strategies that help reduce the likelihood of a serious or fatal crash. I know Vision Zero sometimes gets a bad rap because it feels very Pollyanna, but we really do think, using this as a lens for working through a safe systems approach, that it gives us a foundation to say, everybody deserves to make it home however they're getting around. If they're walking, they're biking, they're in their car, they're driving a truck for work. Everyone deserves to make it home at the end of the day. And all of us have some responsibility to that. And it gives us a foundation to work on that.
Yeah, there is a lot of cynicism out there, so it's good to hear that it's for you all. Can I say still? It's been a few years now, but
Yeah,
still providing that sort of focus for those conversations.
absolutely. It helps give us something easy to understand and chew on, kind of no matter where you sit. If you're just a citizen who's driving around town, it gives us a way to talk about these problems where it can feel more personalized.
Where are you guys on blanket speed limits? Has there been conversation?
Yep. So in our downtown, for example, it's already set for 20 miles per hour. Um, we have been asking the legislature for the authority to change our citywide from 35. That's the set municipal limit all across the state, no matter what size your city is or how complex the transportation system is. But we have been asking for that legislative change and advocating for that. We really believe that the ability to have a more customized approach on a citywide basis instead of having to do it really street by street, which is the process today, would give us a lot more ability to meet the needs of our community. So, we continue to work on that, but with limited staff and limited equipment, there's only so many streets you can address in a single year, whereas that blanket citywide authority would really make a huge difference in setting our expectations for safer speeds.
Right. And how about right turn on red? There's been a lot of movement on that.
Yeah, we've been looking at that as a strategy in our downtown in particular. So we are about in July, we will be launching a downtown traffic analysis that reevaluates some really big ideas like lead pedestrian intervals, no right on red, um, one-way pairs, looking at all of those operational and configuration opportunities to make our downtown safe, inviting, vibrant, and a great place to walk, bike, and take transit.
Which I'd add here, maybe for those listening in who haven't been to downtown Greensboro in a while, it's already a lot of those things. It's really nice. So make it nicer, make it more walkable, but it's starting from a good foundation, in my opinion, for sure. Okay, move on. In transportation, to me, the big news in the last year or two has been the completion of the freeway loop, I-840 around the north side of Greensboro. A year or so, I lose track of time, but relatively recently. So it's been big, right?
Yeah, the completion of that urban loop really brings to a close a conversation in our community and a long-standing effort to get that completed that goes back into the 1960s and the 1970s. So it's really been interesting to watch how that has change some of the traffic patterns on those higher level thoroughfares that lead to and connect to the loop. But it's really been great to see it operationalized and see it completed, because then we can, it gives us some breathing room then in prioritization to start focusing on other needs.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure for a while there was every last dollar was going to that freeway. So yeah, you mentioned briefly how have the traffic patterns changed in the way you expected or differently?
I think for the most part, the changes have been along the lines of what we anticipated. Many of the locations where we began as different segments of the loop opened, we saw almost immediate change in traffic volumes in particular. Higher volumes around in those areas directly around the interchanges, but then the ancillary changes along those corridors really were interesting to watch. Battleground Avenue, for those who are familiar with Greensboro, is a large commercial corridor. It connects downtown all the way up to Summerfield. When the interchange there was opened, we really saw a drastic change in how traffic was moving. So that has helped pull a lot of trucks out of places that they probably shouldn't have been to begin with, and given people a reliable alternative to some of those other roads where there's lots of stoplights and other things going on that give them a higher speed, more reliable connection to the rest of the network.
Any regrets about the planning or design? Even a year in, you look back, oh, I wish we would have done, anything come to mind?
I don't think anything really comes to mind. We're still working on figuring out sort of some of those additional connectivity pieces on the Y lines, on those places where we have bridges or underpasses, making sure that we've got good connectivity there. But I think, given how long a project like that takes, how many different people were involved, it's really turned out to be a huge investment and advantage for Greensboro.
It's miraculous when you get to a ribbon cutting of something that big. To me. Ryan put a question in the Q&A, which is a really good one, kind of something I was going to get to
Sure.
anyway. So thanks, Ryan, and for everybody else, type a question into the Q&A, and we'll probably be able to get it addressed. Ryan asks, do you foresee design changes to the larger highways running through the center of Greensboro, Westover, Battleground, Friendly, Bryan Boulevard, due to the addition and completion of the loop?
What I will say is we will be monitoring the impact to those roadways very closely. Greensboro's really been fortunate over the years to have been the beneficiary of really strong transportation planning. A lot of those lot higher level thoroughfares that we have really have been built for the future. In some cases, it's giving us some breathing room to think about how that piece of right-of-way can be repurposed, when traffic changes significantly. But, we've really been fortunate that our MPO has been directly engaged for so many years. It's not a well-known piece of trivia, but Greensboro had an MPO designation in the year before the federal government set up the MPO program. So we've been at this a really long time here. But as we monitor the impact of those traffic changes, we really start to think about how to take those assets and make them work well for everybody.
When I think of Greensboro, I think of some of that, let's say, funky geometry
Yeah,
on some of those roads. So I think that's maybe what Ryan was getting at too. Some chance to maybe, repurpose a little bit of that, and take. Don't want to take all the funkiness out of it, but some of that
right.
really don't
Yeah.
anymore, right?
We've got some unique circumstances, some unique interchanges and intersections here for sure.
And the loop being sort of the changing the patterns there and maybe giving opportunity to redo some of that. Is anybody doing a formal evaluation of the after effects of the loop?
That's a really good question. And that might be something our friends in Division 7 here would be working on. But as we gear up to do the update to our long range transportation plan, the metropolitan plan, we will definitely be looking at those things to say, here's what changed, here's what's happened, here are the opportunities to do something new and different.
I toss it out there too, as an old researcher, and research problem statements season is upon us. They're due May 29th for those of you who do that. So that might be a good one there. But other communities out there still working on loops. Fayetteville, for instance, comes to mind. Raleigh's is just about to finish. So you're learning lessons there that maybe we can apply in Raleigh or Fayetteville or some other places around the U.S. really.
Oh, for sure.
And we're as a profession, we're just not good at the after evaluations.
Right. Yeah.
It's miraculous, and everybody's so relieved that we walk away.
Yep. We cut the ribbon and then we move on to the next big thing.
Next crisis, I could say maybe. So a couple other big road projects, or on the subject of big road projects, I've been fortunate to be able to work on a couple of them in Greensboro, Benjamin Parkway, for instance. Are there any coming along that you're excited about that you want to highlight?
Sure, we've got a couple. They're not quite on that same scale, but we are converting Green Street in downtown Greensboro from one-way. It lost its one-way pair a long time ago. So from one-way traffic to two-way traffic. And anytime yeah,
Yeah, right. Yeah, northbound, I think, but whatever direction, yeah, there's not a way to come back the other way.
yep. So that's anytime you open the ground in a downtown that's as old and historic as Greensboro is, you find a lot of things sometimes you didn't expect. So that, the underground work is presenting some challenges, but we're really excited to be bringing that road back to two-way traffic and hope for that to be completed in early 2025. And probably the most anticipated project that's happening is actually a section, the final leg of our downtown greenway. So we began construction of that earlier in the year. Expect that to be done in the next couple of years. And this builds on the old ANY rail line for the most part that will complete our just over 4-mile loop around downtown Greensboro.
Thanks. I'm gonna want to ask some questions about pedestrian bicycle in a bit. Let me stick on the road projects for
Sure.
just a moment, and then we'll get to ped and bike, and I'd say a question in the Q&A on that as well. But I-40 through Greensboro, we know it as Death Valley. It's to me, my opinion, it's a horrid piece of road. So when you think we could get some help on I-40?
So we've been working with Division 7 to do some early identification of stakeholders to do a major reinvestment in that corridor. So, now that the loop is open, it really gives us some more latitude to think about how that corridor should and could work, and apply some different construction method strategies like closing it completely while we build it. Now that we've got high-speed highway connections, it really gives us a new opportunity to reimagine that. That is the oldest segment of interstate in the state of North Carolina. And it shows, right? I think if we were going to build that brand new today, we would not do it the way it's laid out today. So, we're beginning to put together the public engagement plans for that, and start down that path so that we've got a really strong community buy-in to how we approach the improvements and to the improvements themselves. So we're excited about that moving forward. It will be a big project. It will be an expensive project. It will be impactful. But I do think at the end of the day, it will be a real benefit to everyone, not just in Greensboro, but everyone who drives through this area.
And the Salem Parkway in Winston-Salem may be an example that we can point to. That
Absolutely. There's a lot of things in this region that we learned just from watching that project go up. So we're definitely taking lessons learned from that and applying them here.
Good. Now let's. I want to get the I-40 in there, and now let's over to pedestrian bicycle because my impression is that Greensboro does have one of the best trail systems of any city in North Carolina. You seem to agree with that, and look forward to the new segment opening. I guess the question though is why the investment in trails? What there's a lot of places to spend our money, recreation or transportation.
Sure.
Why on trails?
I think trails are one of the transportation assets that really bring everybody together. It's hard to not agree that those are good transportation assets, but they're also good recreation assets. When we think about our trail system here, it's really part of that larger system and making sure that it connects to our sidewalks, to our existing parks, to destinations that people really want to and need to get to.
And now this ties into the question posed by Chris in the Q&A. Do you think that a aggressive investment in trails and other things like that can really change mode split? can we really get people to stop driving or convert some of their trips from driving to pedestrian and bicycle?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think a lot of the investments that have been made, not only here, but other cities, has been predicated on that idea that, the gold standard of a safe biking and walking facility is a separated facility. So being able to provide a level of safety and convenience is really important to the transportation system success as a whole. And being able to provide that choice that feels realistic. It comes down to the way we plan for those investments, how they're built and maintained. But at the end of the day, a trail is only as good as where it can get you to.
Right, yes. It needs to connect to something.
Exactly.
I suppose there's, purely recreational around the lake or something. No.
Sure. And those assets absolutely have their place. And hopefully a trail is what got you to that park to enjoy that location.
That too. That's right. Right. And having talked about the trail system and touted it, the kind of basic backbone is the sidewalk. What's your assessment of the sidewalk system in Greensboro? Are there lots of gaps that
Yep, we still have a lot of work to do. Like many other cities in North Carolina and really the US as a whole, there was a big period of time where sidewalks just weren't a priority, so they weren't being constructed as the city grew. So we have a great sidewalk network in our downtown and some of those close-in neighborhoods, and it becomes more and more fractured the further away you get from downtown. So we've got our work cut out for us. We've been investing a lot of our locally administered funds into sidewalk construction. We made a commitment to construct 100 miles, and we've beaten that number. So now we need to come up with our next goal. And our next goal will really be informed by our mobility plan for our transit system to help us prioritize the sidewalk network to get to those new bus stops so that people can realistically use the transit system in a way that's meaningful and provides them a reasonable alternative option to driving.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, again, those connections. The trail system, same question. There's gaps. There's a plan to fill in those gaps.
Yep, we think about the trail system the same way we would about a highway system. You start with, those key spine areas, and then you build off from there. Trails, we're in the process now of finishing up a feasibility study in partnership with NCDOT for an East Greensboro Greenway that would connect out to one of our large regional size parks all the way into downtown Greensboro. And we plan to use that feasibility study to then, as a leverage point, to apply for some of this new alternative transportation investment money that's coming out so that we can take that next step to design the facility and prepare for its construction in the future.
Hannah, maybe I'm just a grumpy old man, but in North Carolina cities, I don't know Greensboro as well, but Raleigh, it's too hot for much of the year, and the terrain is just too tough for me to ride a bicycle anymore. But even when I was a little younger, it was still too hot. The hills are too steep.
Well, and that's I don't disagree. I had knee surgery last year, so my knees are not built for biking on long distances and really steep climbs anymore. But that's where this new evolution of the electric bike, the e-bike, really becomes important to communities. Is it opens the door for so many other people who felt like that this is just not for me anymore. Having ridden a few now, they really are remarkable in how they can extend the range of a average bicyclist, let alone someone like me who no longer has the capacity to ride for long distances or steep climbs. So I'm really excited about how e-bikes can, as those prices come down and can become truly a way to unlock the potential of our communities here.
But that's a great point. We need to figure out kind of legally and philosophically how to make them work on trails, on streets, on sidewalks, and everywhere in between. But certainly good potential there, it seems. Good. Transit, you mentioned it a couple of times. We Nick site have been a couple of years now with our intern social to view the transit system, ride an electric bus, look at the terminal. Looks like the transit in Greensboro is really kind of leading the way.
It really is. Our transit system is really something that we can be proud of. Greensboro was the first in North Carolina to operate electric buses. Electric buses now make up just over a third of the bus fleet in Greensboro. And, as we work through things like the zero emissions plan that FTA requires, we are looking forward to a future where all of our fleet is some alternative fuel system. And working now with having a partner to work with has been really great. Reggie Mason joined us in August of last year. He's our new transit director. And we've been working together on this Go Borough plan, which really looks at making a major shift of investment into our transit system to make it competitive, to make it more attractive. And so one of the early things that we've done for that is roll out our first CrossMax service. It's 15-minute service throughout the majority of the day, and it's a crosstown route. So it goes from East Greensboro all the way to West Greensboro, and we've gotten a great response to that service. People have really enjoyed riding it. It really makes that route significantly more convenient. And it's a demonstration of what a major investment in higher speed, higher frequency transit could look like in our community. So we'll be working through the final recommendations of that plan here in the next few months, and really hopeful about what that can mean, not just for Greensboro, but our role in the region as part of the transit network.
Or connecting with regional service. Crosstown means that it doesn't go downtown and pick up transfers then?
It still goes downtown. There's a short stop there, but it's not, it doesn't require you to leave the bus if you're still on the right route. So it provides a lot more single seat rides, which is one of those, kind of gold standards for a transit system.
Has system-wide ridership really recovered since the pandemic?
It's still not quite where we were pre-pandemic. I think that's true all over the country. I've been working on this Transit Safety Advisory Commission for FTA for the last year or so, and talking to our peers all across the country. I think the ridership just looks different, partly because the way and the where we work is still different.
Right. Yeah. You and I both happen to be from the office today, but I was moaning to you before that I started the day at home. Yeah, right. That 10%, 12%, something like that of work trips are gone, and probably
Yep.
not not to return.
And it's been interesting to see sort of how that plays out in the distribution of trips throughout the day, not just on transit, but across the community, how people's travel patterns have just really fundamentally changed.
I want to circle back to e-bikes for just a minute. Aaron put a
Sure.
question in the Q&A. Well, he makes a point that e-bikes have changed how his family gets around, and wondering if is Greensboro looking into e-bike rebates for residents?
Oh, what a great question. I know that's something we haven't really talked a lot about, but we have, so we just relaunched our micromobility partnership with Bird here, and they've brought not just electric scooters, but 50 electric bikes to be part of the network as well.
So, interesting to see how that works out then.
Yeah, we're going to be tracking very closely how the ridership works, where people are using them, so that we can really justify growing that system to provide more and more access.
Back on transit for just a moment. And I again asked the same question of Raleigh and other cities. There is I hear what want to add routes or change routes, make system more efficient. But help me find a model of a medium-sized city that's really making transit work in the US at this point. Who do y'all look to this, to really want to emulate doing it right out there?
There are a lot of cities that are struggling with these same questions and resource constraints. When we look at places like Richmond, Virginia, for example, where they've instituted a bus rapid transit system. The city of Minneapolis, for example, I was just there for the National Planning Conference. They've made a major investment, and Minneapolis is not that much bigger than Greensboro. There's a lot more suburbs there, when you look at the metropolitan area as a whole, but the city itself has really participated in making those places work well for transit. And I think that's really the key, is it can't just be transit alone. The roadway system, the sidewalk system, the trail system, the bus stops themselves all need to work together to make that system seem as attractive and as possible for you to complete your trip as it would getting in your car.
Yeah, yeah. The day of a bus stop consisting of a sign that somebody stuck in the ground pretty randomly, it got to be over. We can do better.
Yep, exactly. We have to do better if we want transit to be part of our solutions for solving some of the big problems that we have, like congestion, like climate change, then we have to do better.
Let's talk about growth. It's the headline in Greensboro is the Toyota plant. It's not in the city limits, right? But it's
Right.
south of town. Um, it's going to change that whole side of the city, or the whole city. I mean,
Yeah.
help us understand a little bit how big this thing is, and what's the scale of change that you expect from it.
Absolutely. So this Toyota battery plant is now entering its second phase of construction. And when you look at their total investment, we're talking about $8 billion. And that's really substantial. That's a big deal. And the changes and growth that are likely to happen won't just happen in Greensboro, it really will happen kind of across the region as a whole. So we're really excited to be in partnership with them and to be working directly with Toyota to find some solutions to get people to the job site. They're already beginning to have hiring events to get people ready to go. It's going to be really transformational, and Greensboro has been working really hard to gear up to be ready to accommodate that growth.
Follow up on that a little bit, if you will. How is the city working with Toyota, working with other cities, the county, talk about that cooperation that's needed.
Sure. So, I mean, I guess one of the first big ones is the city of Greensboro is the water and sewer provider to this site. So having to work not just with Greensboro, Guilford County, Toyota site itself, we've had to work with the town of Liberty, Randolph County. All of those are players in making sure that the system works the way it needs to. We've also been working in collaboration with those partners on a corridor economic study along Highway 421, looking at what's likely to see pressure to grow and grow differently, and how do we leverage this major investment to make sure that we're growing in a way that feels supportive to the community that's already there, meets some of the ongoing needs, but also provides opportunity to welcome more people to our community.
Yeah, the residential growth, I guess my concern out of the box would be sprawl in the wrong places. So are you concerned about that? Can we kind of rein that in?
Greensboro, what year was it? 2022? I think that's right. Approved a brand new long range plan. It's called Greensboro 2040, and it has a series of pillars of kind of growth concepts. And one of those is to make Greensboro car optional. So when we are looking to rezone new areas, bring new areas into the city, we are looking for opportunities to not only grow well, but grow in a way that continues that intent of making it easy to have choices. Because, that's really what I see our department being responsible for is, of course, we operate all of the traditional things, but it is really being thoughtful about allowing for people to choose. It's not to say that cars are necessarily bad or that they won't have a part to play in the transportation system in the future, but it's hard to imagine yourself walking somewhere or biking somewhere or taking transit if you don't have access to those assets.
Right. Yeah, and it won't happen. Yep. How can we entice some of those new workers? And it's not only Toyota, there's going to be spillover, all kinds of businesses and buyers and et cetera. How can we entice some of those people to want to move and infill in the city or even move downtown and help the locality of downtown? It's going to be a challenge.
Yes, and it requires us all to be working together with that same kind of mindset.
Yeah. Good. See what else we got here on on these topics. Remind our listeners here to if you have a question for Hannah, please type it into the Q&A. We've had several good ones so far, and we got time for a couple. If you got something on your mind, please do that. I do have a question from our outstanding intern Breyer, who notes that there was talk last year of converting some of the one-way pairs through downtown into being two-way streets, and he mentions Market Street and Friendly Avenue. That's the east and west one-way pair. So just wondering where the city is on those ideas at this point.
That will be a real cornerstone of the study we're starting in July to evaluate those, as well as some of the other one-way pairs. On the western side of downtown, we've got a pair of high volume one-way streets. but also looking at how we integrate all of the different demands for transportation choice in downtown so that we aren't leaving anybody behind, and that we have a strategy that can make some of those high volume streets a little easier to cross, and a better place to ride your bike, for example. So we're excited about going through this process and really engaging the stakeholders. Greensboro has a slowly growing residential population in the downtown, and there's a lot of opportunity and potential in the future for that to grow significantly. So how do we incorporate the idea of downtown not just being a place to work or to be entertained, but also a place to live?
Yeah, we were chatting before with real estate prices in Greensboro being a fraction of what they are in Charlotte or Raleigh, for instance, or Chapel Hill or Durham. That it really could become an attractive place for people to move, to retire, to start whatever. There's an
Yep,
opportunity there, it seems to me. Good.
for sure.
Parking. Uh, probably one of the things that well, I don't characterize for you, but for others that I've talked with in similar positions, the least favorite part of the job of a city DOT. So the city owns a number of parking assets, right? And basically your job and your folks' job to manage those, right?
Yes. So Greensboro uh, should soon be opening our 6th parking deck. We've built 2 in the time that I've been here. And those have been all, in both of those instances, they've been part of public-private partnerships. So they've been built as part of the parking strategy for a mixture of other uses: hotels, residential, commercial spaces. So it's been really interesting. Those were things that I would have never imagined being responsible for constructing when I started down this road into transportation. But parking policy, what I've come to realize, is a really big cornerstone for how we manage our most precious places, really are the center and heart of our community. So we've just are finishing up a parking plan for our downtown area. We looked at both on-street and off-street. The city not only owns several parking decks, but we also own some surface parking lots that could make great opportunities for that to be something more economically interesting. So we're looking to strategies of how we make those places available as opportunities for growth and infill growth, the kind of growth that we really are interested in creating in our downtown.
Parking garages have been a financial drain on cities across the US. Greensboro, okay, in that regard?
So right now, our parking system is a little bit upside down, in part because we've constructed these new facilities. So we've taken on some debt to do that. But as those investments around those decks come online, we really do think we'll be back to more steady footing in that regard. So we're looking forward to those developments coming and filling up our parking decks.
Sure. Need the cars in them. Yep. Are the decks capable of being converted to other uses then? If automated vehicles kick in, let's say, and all of a sudden we don't need them?
Yeah, that's a really popular idea, unfortunately, to construct a parking deck that can withstand both live and dead load would require you to build it really differently. And that difference translates into a significant change in the cost. So in our locations, they're not constructed in that way, but at least in these last 2 that we've built, we really hope that they will be a critical part of the development that they are surrounded by, so that they are providing that support for ongoing development. It's a huge challenge. Parking in downtowns is a problem everywhere. And every community, I think, has struggled in some part with how to both meet the need as it moves around your community. One way we've been doing that in downtown is over the last year, since July of last year when we launched it, we've been offering a free hop on, hop off hopper trolley. It's some buses that we put some money back into that we were otherwise going to take out of rotation. And we've dressed them up. We've made them interesting to sit inside. And then we've established stops that stretch all throughout our downtown, so you really can conveniently get from place to place, either without moving your car or get from a parking deck to other parts of downtown that you might want to visit.
Yep. Yeah, I'm thinking of from the core of downtown to that nice little area along is it Elm or Eugene? It's a few blocks, maybe.
Yep.
Just long enough to be annoying of a walk. So a little shuttle
Right.
there, for instance.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, good. A couple minutes left. I see a question in the Q&A from Chris. What corridors do you think are most ripe for revitalization in Greensboro and have the most opportunity to actually see some change?
What a great question. I think there's a few that certainly come to mind. The one that we've been kind of focused on is what is called Gate City now, but was Lee Street and High Point Road, for those of you who might not have been to Greensboro in the last few years. This is an area that connects shopping districts with our Coliseum back to downtown and then to one of our university campuses. So we've got a real opportunity there to look at how it grows and some areas for true reinvestment. This is also a location where we are thinking about and studying what a light version of bus rapid transit could look like. And all those things work together to make that more attractive to redevelopment interest.
Yeah, my mental image of the city, I can see things kind of lining up there east to west. I see the potential there. So yeah, good. Thanks, Chris. Again, a couple minutes left. We are sponsored by the Young Members Council. We appreciate that. So a question on their behalf perhaps is if there's any younger members listening now who want your job someday, want to be the director of the Greensboro DOT, what advice would you have for such ambitious young people?
So I am definitely not a traditional hire for a transportation director. I don't have a professional engineer's license, but I work and value the professional engineers that I do work with. When I started in transportation, it was because somebody offered me an interesting job. I didn't know very much about transportation, but as I grew as a professional, I took every opportunity that was given to me to grow. So taking advantage of doing things that you might not know very much about before you say no. Think about saying yes. And taking advantage of those professional growth opportunities, go to the training, take on a new role. None of us can afford to ever really stop growing as professionals. When I took this job, I didn't know very much about parking, and now I know a lot. So, that's what I would say is try to say yes. Yeah. And see where it takes you.
I had a boss back in the day who told me that. Say yes and then figure out how to do it. Oh, good. With that, we are just about out of time, but any last thoughts, Hannah? You want to kind of close things out?
I don't think I've got any last thoughts, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity to chat with you today and share a little bit about what's going on in Greensboro.
And thank you so much. I learned a good bit. I hope the folks listening did as well. With that, let's put a wrap on it. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you, Andy, and thank you to our sponsors. Reminder to complete your evaluations and obtain your PDH certificate. We'll be back in June with another conversation from Nick's site. And in the meantime, keep talking transportation. Back to you, Andy.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Harmer. Again, as Dr. Harmer mentioned, we'll send out the PDH and evaluation forms to you this afternoon or tomorrow morning. We look forward to having you back in a couple of months for our next conversation. Again, when we get the date for that finalized, you'll get an email blurb from Nick's site about it. And again, thanks to everybody for stopping by and asking questions and listening to our conversation in transportation. Have a good afternoon, everyone.